And unlike typical vampires, her fangs are located in her vagina. Moving on.
Let's use this introductory setup to think about the most creepy threats in horror cinema. What may not immediately spring to mind when pondering the depths of mortal dread is the very concept of womanhood.
A woman?
This deeply prevalent fear of women is far more insidious than Kathy Bates with a sledgehammer or Jason's hard done by mum. Everybody loves a pseudo-intellectual shortcut when it comes to manufacturing the morbid and grabbing men where it's going to hurt the most. Take Alien as a crowning example. A parasite with blatantly vaginal characteristics forcibly impregnates men, leading to the fatally destructive birth of a phallic terror that reduces a once masculine crew to ruinous chasms of viscera, leaving behind only a solitary female survivor. As with everything good, most of these ideas wound up dumbed down and repackaged as tasteless, taboo-pushing chores, more concerned with shock than making any kind of statement. But every once in a while, an inventive oddity emerges to throw shade on these long-in-the-tooth attempts at psychological button-pushing, undoing assumptions with humour, horror, and representation. Teeth is a tale as old as time. Coy wallflower and evangelical abstinence preacher Dawn meets a dreamboat boy. Boy turns out to be a rapist. Dawn realises she has rows of razor-sharp choppers in her vagina, and with that, the penis of every scumbag is on the chopping block. Okay, so it's really not like anything else. And thank gynecological god it isn't. It's beyond rare to find something this thought out and, well, funny, that never undermines the seriousness of its ideological talking points. Teeth where no teeth should be may reek of insensitive schlock, but what we have here is a mindful modern reappropriation of some troubling superstitions. Vagina dentata, which translates as the rather obvious toothed vagina, has cropped up in ancient folklore from just about every continent. While they all have their eyebrow-raising variations, most feature a difficult woman who is broken, tamed, and defanged by a man's sexual force. Teeth understands the troubling origins of its premise, overtly calling attention to these legends at numerous points, before tearing every intolerant one of these myths to pieces, emphasizing empowerment through the lens of teen movies, small towns, and sexual repression. Dawn, our gnashing heroine, is born and raised within a toxic environment. No, I mean an actual toxic environment. With a bellowing nuclear power plant as its backdrop, her domestic life is fractured and failing, as her mother succumbs to an unspecified illness, and her kind but preoccupied stepfather bumbles around. Dawn's twisted, lecherous stepbrother Brad rules the roost. A man so vile that, when he isn't lusting after his sibling, likes to treat women like dogs, and dogs as if they were toys. Possibly as a coping mechanism for all of this, or a subconscious attempt to mitigate her complex and unexplored anatomical issues, Dawn is a Kool-Aid drinking, purity ring wearing soldier for the sexually repressed.
What about the most precious gift of all? Are you gonna give that to the first guy who buys you a big bunch of roses?
No way!
Teeth doesn't hide its disdain for those who preach abstinence as a form of contraception, nor the dogmatic brainwashing that goes along with it. The ludicrous and completely ineffective true love waits mentality is espoused with lockstep glee and fascist salutes, while Dawn yammers on as their well-meaning but ill-informed figurehead.
Girls have a natural modesty. It's built into our nature, it's so depicting.
She's so indoctrinated, even a tender moment of masturbatory self-exploration is soiled with not until your wedding night hesitance. All the while, conflicting messages bombard her with both sides of the Madonna whore complex and the contradictory expectations attached to it. On the one hand, she's taught salvation comes through purity and that the vagina is an indecent symbol of perversion to be neither seen nor discussed. On the other, billboards advertise that female perfection is the sum of their physical appearance, while she veers from one traumatic encounter to the next in search of someone who values her beyond a base sexual urge. The predators who take Dawn for easy prey aren't just the typical wrong side of the tracks teen movie bad boys, as represented by Brad. At first, they appear completely innocuous. Toby is a fellow virginal zealot, Ryan is the kind of dork that in any other film would most likely get the girl, and Dr. Godfrey is an OBGYN and confidential source of adult guidance. Teeth takes each of these beam-me-up soft boys in their nice guy camouflage and shows them for what they are: entitled, exploitative aggressors. In each instance of rape, coerced sexual contact and molestation, the wolves delude themselves into thinking they're sheep, dominantly grazing what they consider their territory. As Carol J. Clover states in her writings on gender in slasher cinema, angry displays of force may belong to the male, but crying, cowering, screaming, fainting, trembling, begging for mercy belong to the female. It's in each of these troubling moments where Teeth eschews the predefined problematic role of young women in the genre. Dawn bites back against any notion of victimhood, neutering those who cannot comprehend basic rules of consent before discarding their reproductive organs as useless, unworthy appendages. Even specific dynamics of teen movie romance are mauled beyond recognition. Ryan's vulgar attempts to bed Dawn as part of a bet straight out of She's All That or American Pie are shown up and punished for being the gaslighting, hideous social engineering they are. As Dawn continually guards against these intrusive, unwanted advances, the film piles on more Freudian imagery than you could shake a dick at, if only to cheekily take the piss out of them. In keeping with Freud's view that, to the unconscious mind, water is a symbol of birth and awakening, rain lashes down as Dawn sexually engages with herself, and pools are present in the first instances where her vagina dentata makes itself apparent. Sigmund Freud's writings on vagina dentata, a term he coined, hold firm that the mere sight of female genitalia is enough to elicit a deep castration anxiety in most men, while women secretly envy the power of the phallus. By graphically realising these irrational masculine fears, the phallic are diminished and sacrificed at the altar of Dawn's burgeoning womanhood. Place this alongside the film's recurrent and in no way subtle Medusa's head imagery, because even that made Freud think about losing one's junk, and Teeth stands tall in mocking defiance of phallocentric views of sexual identity. As I stated earlier, most classical iterations of vagina dentata found in global folklore are resolved by a masculine hero conquering the woman, excising any obstacle in the way of male gratification. After initially resigning to this fate, Dawn comes to accept herself emotionally, physically, and sexually. She's her own saviour. Or to put it simply, Teeth can be viewed as a superhero origin story, with a power and skill set born of trials, discovered through pain, and honed with self-acceptance. This isn't about a bloodthirsty defect. It's a welcome biological adaptation, an evolutionary measure that lays dormant until it's called upon in a time of need. You won't see that in the X-Men. While Teeth's financial underperformance at the box office is more a result of terrible marketing and a tone that's hard to parse from a 2-minute trailer, there are flaws that need to be addressed. For one thing, when Dawn engages in what the film expresses as consensual, joyous sex, it's after she's been sedated and manipulated into doing so, a miscommunication the director has since apologised for. It's also been argued that much of what happens focuses on how Dawn's predicament affects men, rather than what it means to her. Despite these oversights, I still think Teeth stands as an essential and highly underrated slice of feminist film. When examining the role of femininity in the horror genre, there's a recurring link between the blossoming sexual maturity of young women and entrenched feelings of shame and sin. As Hannah Segal opines, what should be seen as a symbol of integrity, power, and autonomy gets twisted into an object of persecution. Refusing to be a party to this, Teeth charts a confused and abused woman unlearning a lifetime of internalized misogyny, growing to celebrate her individuality, and wielding a scythe of ferocious retribution for anyone who would seek to take what isn't theirs. In doing so, it joins a stable of equally controversial and important rebuttals to gendered power dynamics and sexist screenwriting. Taking the vaginal imagery of blood and physical mutilation associated with childbirth and rape, and forcing men to reckon with the gory aftermath for themselves. Because hell hath no fury, like teeth where no teeth should be. An enormous thank you to our Patreon producers Jennifer C, Claire MD, Becky O, and Nicholas Le Revere, as well as these good folks who all chip in to help the channel over at Patreon. What are your thoughts on teeth? Do you think it's as underrated as I do, or does it miss the mark? Let us know in the comments, and recommend any films that you think are similar to this, because the Lord knows I'm curious about the prospect of anything else like this existing. The best way to support us is to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video on social media or Reddit, and if you're in a position to do so, feel free to check out our Patreon, where you can sign up to the In Frame Out Film Club, as well as getting access to our humble Discord community, and your name in the credits. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, this is In Frame Out.